One of my very first video last year was me telling you all about how I started a fiber journal and it changed my fiber arts journey completely. Just writing and taking notes in this little journal helped me so much. I just wanted to create and learn more so I could jot them down, everything in here. And this is 1 year of fiber journal with me. This was my very first time having a fiber journal, so most of it is just experiments. And this was a journal where I could insert the pages, and I have divided it in 2 sections. The first one is techniques and like general notes, while the second one is all about the projects I have made. I will flip through it and let you know all I jotted down, as well as all the projects I have made this year. Here it is. I have some stickers collected on the front and back, and I try to fill every page with some whimsy. So the first part is dedicated to techniques, and I started this when I was starting my knitting and crochet journey. So the very first things are all about the beginner's basic. So these are crochet, again crochet English to Italian, the abbreviation from English to Italian. Here's how to read the metric US and UK measurements, and these are the ones I have at home. How to read the yarn labels and some drawings on how to make crochet stitches. Ooh. My first projects were a hat, and I tried to learn granny square, but I couldn't in the beginning because my tension wasn't good enough. I made a balaclava free-handed with these colors. Learning ribbing. Why it is good to swatch. This is actually one pattern I printed and I folded it, so the end of the pattern is all the way over here, but that's alright. How I made a circular neck with crochet. This is my free-handed free pattern sweater vest I made, just laying down what I was making under a vest I already owned with these yarns. My very first knitting project was a cowl. And this is where I published my fiber journal video, and so I started talking about it, and as I was saying, it brings me more joy in fiber arts to know that I can journal about them. I started attending my local crochet club, and here we were making a banner. My second project of knitting was a hat I made with some scrap yarn I had lying around, and it came out very bad, and so I tried again, now with some short needles I bought for the occasion, and that was much nicer. An order of yarn I made, and I helped a friend of mine reading some crochet charts. Here was the yarn for my very first knitted sweater. All these pages are connected to the ones in the end of the journal where I share my projects. This is where I started trying and learning about visible mending, and these were some sweaters made by my mom that I found, and she actually gave them to me, so I have them in my wardrobe even if they are too small for me. A vest I made with some variegated yarn, and I gifted this. The simple thing, I actually made like 3 or 4 during the year. A chart on yarn sustainability. I still have very much to learn, but I'm learning tons on the subject and just trying to be coherent with my choices and my values. This is the finished project with this yarn. This was my very first tester call. I made this vest. It's called the Panama Crochet Sweater Vest. And it's a free pattern and a free tutorial here on YouTube. The first time I tried and learned the Italian bind off. Looks so stunning but takes so much time. A tomato hat I was gifted. I tried a Tunisian crochet with a friend of mine that taught me. Very nice, but I don't have the Tunisian crochet hook. She lent me theirs for the time she was teaching to me, but so I couldn't do it again after she went back home. My first sock. Love the colors. It's full of holes, but I still hold it dearly in my heart. I tried tapestry crochet, incredibly fun. Would love to make more, honestly. Some tips for tapestry crochet. Another very nice evening at the local crochet club. Some trying for sashiko. I taught crochet to some local people. I tried to take some very cool photos of this weather and I loved them. This was the Archer bag debut. It's a pattern for a bag I wrote with my friend. This is us. And so we took some photos and I just loved this spread so much. I was gifted this yarn by a friend who wasn't using it, and I made a chunky hat for another friend. I made some bucket hats. It took me 3 tries to get my size, and I gifted the others. This is the instruction for kitchen and stitch that I tried when I was making my second pair of socks, that is these green ones. I made Archer bag in crochet. Many people were asking for it, so I made it. And then it kind of fell flat. There aren't many projects on Ravelry for the crochet version. Lots more for the knitted one. Here was a mending day I had at a local shop. So I asked people to come in the shop with their clothes and I would mend them with a colored patch. Super fun. All the yarn I used, mostly held together, for one of my vests. So a free pattern that was shared by Manchester Wool and Yarn. Amazing shop and amazing account. Some instructions, some yarn I bought that I still have to use. I made another Archer bag and this time I lined it to film the video. This is a project I would love to make, so I have it in here just to remind myself of it. A friend of mine bought the book by Anna Huseman and they allowed me to take some photos to try and learn more about intarsia. So I studied this very hard. This is another project I would love to make and I just can't choose which colors I would love for myself. And so here I have some photos from the project section of the page of the waves weather. This is the name for this project. And I can't choose, I just love them all. This was when me and my friends were invited to Knit It & Co in Lyon, which is a yarn festival. Amazing, we had the best time there. Some instructions for mending and some instructions to make a crochet star. A crochet star. Here's the star I made. My first try at felting for the sailor slippers, I made them with these two colors. A chart I found on Pinterest that's really nice, and these lovely colors for these fingerless gloves. Then I have some photos from book pages from friends of mine. We often share books, and I just photographed the projects that I would like the most to make, but hadn't have the time yet, but they live here, so if I ever want to make them, I could ask my friends for the book or look at these photos. And here's just, let's call it a gallery of all the photos that I couldn't include in the project pages because the pages are a lot, you're gonna see them, and so I just put them here to finish the last pages. This is me knitting at IKEA. And the last few pages are again from the book Hooktionary that a friend of mine has, and I just loved it. And since it can be used for, a pixel chart can be used for crochet, knitting, cross stitch, tapestry, duplicate stitch, everything, I just have to take some pics of it, and they are a great inspiration even if I have not used them yet. And this is the end of the first section of the book. And here starts the second one. This is the Ruma, which is a wish holder that I made for my patron. And this is my very first crochet project. I made this in 2022 and it was a hot mess. I did not follow any pattern and all the yarns were different. And I wore it like twice, I just couldn't. But it's such a core memory to my crochet and knitting journey, and it was here that started it all, kind of. So this was it, and these were all the different yarns and colors. And I was trying to learn something, so I made these pen dividers for pens and pots. And then I thought crochet wasn't for me, so I tried knitting and I made the two hats. And both of them are super small on my head, and so yeah, it wasn't great. And I kind of stopped. I made a cat toy and a dice bag, and I was going to make another hat, but yeah, I just couldn't bear making it. And I went back to it in 2023 during one big fair here in Italy. I had some lovely friends of mine that tried to teach me macrame and granny squares in crochet, and they were so supportive that I just wanted to make more. So I have another friend of mine that taught me to make this. Actually, they made most of it. We made it together. And so I tried making this for Christmas that year, and they were so supportive. They just prompted me to try and try again. So the next year I made this bag following a pattern from Knotted Neon, and I love it so much. And I received so many good compliments. I tried more, so I made this tapestry. I tried to make a bag. I never finished it. And I made this where you put your pins. It's a little amigurumi, but I use it to store my pins. And then I decided maybe some lessons would have helped me get better, and so this was my first lesson, and it was already so much nicer than my first granny square. Like, can you see the difference? Anyway, I made more, so I made this garland for Halloween, then I made the first balaclava that I talked about in the first part of the fiber journal. And it's just like, it looks like a medieval helm thingy. So I never wore it, and I'm actually thinking of frogging this and using the yarn, because the yarn was very, very good. My second try at a balaclava, and I tried to follow a YouTube tutorial by Aspen from Made in the Moment. Did not finish it, but also because I ran out of yarn, so it's not all their fault. But it's a learning process, and so I just had a page of things I would have done differently, and so it helped me learn a lot, even if I frogged it in the end. A stocking, my very first project with needles, and it was circular needles, and it just was so much nicer for me to use circular against the projects I have made with straight needles. And this clicked. This was the moment that I was like, oh, maybe I can do this. So I made this sleeveless vest. I love it so much, I wear it super often. I made some clover keychains. This was a Voltron electrode amigurumi for a Secret Santa. I wrote my very first pattern, a crochet pattern for Panama vest. This is it. And then I did my first sweater. I knitted this. It's the step-by-step sweater handmade by Florence. It's a free pattern that comes with a video tutorial, so it was incredibly nice to knit this and just follow along the tutorial to see where I was going right or wrong. And the circular needles was the thing. It was the thing that made me get into knitting. This is the final result. I made a vest with some chunky yarn, and I did not like how I was with the colors, and so I gifted this. This was using the yarn I had left over from the step-by-step sweater, so this is the simple thing, a scarf. And then I was a tester for Some Friend by Floweric, and it's so cute. And it was my first time as a tester, so I learned a lot about the testing process, and it was super nice. I made this Linnea vest by Vicky Knits with some cashmere. And my second sweater, this was the Copenhagen sweater in merino and lace mohair to get this striped effect. My sock challenge that did not went very well. They got frogged, and only this survived. But I did actually took back my dream house cottage socks and made them in the end, just like 10 months later. But yeah, this was my very first pair of socks I've made, and it's made in Lang Jowl in my favorite colors. I made a cat bed with crochet and a very chunky yarn. And these are the Archie bags. So the first one I made was in scrap yarn, and the second one also was in scrap yarn, but with lots of different colors, and they look stunning. I love Archie bag. Again, a free pattern by yours truly that comes with a video tutorial. So the bucket hat with scrap yarn I made free. I gifted to my mom, and the third one I kept. And the third one is the only one that actually I can wear, that it's not too tight. My first tie of in the round work with crochet. I made this mesh vest and I dyed it after it. Tomato amigurumi, I love tomatoes. Another, the simple thing, this was for a gift. A chunky hat I gifted. A mesh bottle holder made with scrap yarn that I wrote the pattern of. And my second pair of socks, these were made with another pattern. I think it was the Indulgence socks. And these are kind of tough on my feet, but I love the color. My third pair of socks, and the one I am most proud of, I think the color is a little bit too bold, so I don't wear them as much as I want to, but I think I kinda understood how socks were made. And then I made and wrote the crochet version for Archie bag. And this was another test knit I took part of. I had yarn support by Isager, so the yarn was sent to me in these colors. And this is not my usual palette, but that made me very excited to try this. And it actually came out great. I learned so many techniques making this. I don't think I was like at the level when I started for making this, but it somehow, in a month and a half, I did it. And I was super happy with the result. And here they are, the socks I frogged 3 times and the 4th we made it. And it's still a little bit loose on the ankle, but I love the design, and yeah, I'm just very happy with the yarn colors and choices. This was a project I was going to write a pattern for, but I couldn't make it work like I wanted to, and so I frogged it. The Archie bag I made with the lining. This I used for lining an old tablecloth from IKEA, and it works great. So yeah, never throw out your fabrics. The viral sailor slippers and the dark magic of felting. Wow, how incredible. A pillow I made with my friends, so we made the same pillows in different colors, and this is mine, yellow one. The fingerless gloves, that reminds me of Fantastic Mr. Fox, and the designer kindly gifted me this pattern, and I loved making it. It was such a quick and nice, easy to carry around project, and I tried duplicate stitch for the very first time making this, and at first I was not getting it. I tried it sometimes, I watched a tutorial, I tried it again, and then something worked. So yeah, just try and try again, and something will end out in the end. And this, oof, look at this. This was started in January of 2025, and I ended it just in the middle of December, and it took me so long to make this, but in the end this is the post-blocking look, and it's the sweater I'm wearing right now. Super nice, and it's the twist loop sweater. All my projects are logged on Ravelry, so if you are looking for a specific information about the needles I used, the yarn I used, or the notes I took, you can also watch my Ravelry profile. And these are all the projects I have not finished. So I have a Sophie scarf in the making, this is a fisherman hat, and this was a funky vest I was making out of scrap yarn that I wanted to write a pattern for, but I have not finished these 3, and so I just store the pictures like this. And every time I finish one of the projects, I make the page for it. But meanwhile they are not finished, I just keep adding the picture in the pages. Like this one too. This is the Lanak sweater, and I have not finished it because I do not have enough yarn. Some pixel chart that I found on Pinterest. And here we have like a little gallery of things I would love to knit, maybe in the future. I did some fingerless gloves, so maybe I can take these out, but I would love to make some mittens or some fingerless gloves with a cord to keep them. And some ornaments. This is a very fun hat. And this was the page I kept coming back to. These are some exercises for when your hands hurts. I really advise you to find these pictures and print them and put them in your fiber journal. They will be very, very helpful to you. And at the end of the journal, I just have an envelope with some pictures and scrap things inside, so that when I want to make a page, I can come here and use this to decorate the page if I want to. And some paper I have misprinted from my mail club on Patreon, and then I keep here to use as background or as paper. And that was it. It's quite a thick journal. I did end up, I kept adding pages to the sections, so it ended up that I cannot use the elastic to close it anymore. So I won't use this in the next year. I'm gonna start a new one for the new year, and I think it's gonna be a wonderful adventure. So this is just the fiber journal for my very first year as a fiber artist, as a knitter, as a crocheter, and so it holds so many dear memories inside, and I just love all the stuff I made, even the ones I have frogged, because they taught me a lesson. Thank you so much for coming with me and enjoying my fiber journal. If this inspired you to do one, I would love to know so, and I would just share my love for journaling and fiber arts with all the people around the world. So I truly hope you love this, and maybe you should start one too. I make lots of other videos about fiber arts here in my channel, and I truly hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye!